Okay, peace and blessings. It's your brother Sorry back with yet another one. Okay, so this is going to be the 20th law of power we're going to do today. Okay, so 20th law of power out of the 48. You know what I mean? We running through them. Uh, okay, so this law is going to be pretty much what I call the don't trust nobody law of the 48 laws of power. The 20th law out of the 48 laws of power: do not commit to anyone. Now, with True Master, I'm gonna contrast that with a teaching out of True Master that's gonna kind of illustrate the pros and cons of um, lack of commitment and overcommitment, because that's what we're really dealing with. Again, is too much and not enough, but lack of commitment and overcommitment. You see what I'm saying? Similar to too much and not enough, but we're going to go into the difference of it. Okay, so this is the don't trust nobody law out of the 48 laws of power. Maintaining independence in an attempt to maintain control. You see what I'm saying? Maintaining independence in an attempt to maintain control. Now, this is an interesting law of power. If anybody, if y'all understand, you know, some elements of some of the multi layers of this conversation. Independence. You see what I'm saying? So this is gonna tie into independence versus association with a group. Independence versus being married. Independence versus collaboration. All that. So it's gonna go into the pros and cons of independence versus association. So this will be a pretty decent one. Okay, so okay, so this law of power specifically says do not commit to anyone. You see what I'm saying? That's law of power. So this is for the hope of maintaining uh, independence in an attempt to maintain control. So you're seeking to maintain control with this law of power, and your mechanism for control is to maintain your independence. Now the logic behind this ties into the eighth law of power, making people come to you. That has an intended effect of this law. That is an intended effect of this 20th law. The 20th law: do not commit to anyone, because it has the eighth law wrapped up in it. Because you're trying to make people come to you. How are you trying to make people come to you? Having no allegiance, making groups court that particular allegiance. That's the intention of this law, and having the ability to turn groups against each other. Now, if anybody's familiar with, you know, I think Robert Greene wrote another book, The Art of Seduction. You see what I'm saying? He's talking about women. You see what I'm saying? Different types of women and different types of ways that they use the art of seduction. From the male perspective, the art of seduction would be charisma. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just applied to the female, it's also applied to the male, but women use it so very, very masterfully. I know you've heard me say in various different situations, various different contexts, a woman can go places on the planet. A feminine woman, let me rephrase that. A feminine woman can go places that no man can go. You see what I'm saying? For this very reason. This is one of the powers of a woman acting in their feminine. And when I say acting in their feminine, it ain't gotta be overly sexual. It ain't got it, but just feminine. Cause I gotta like differentiate that. Femininity is not always overly sexual, but femininity can be, it can be feminine without being overly sexual. It can be feminine with femininity being sexual. You see what I'm saying? But it does. It's not a. It's not. It's not a always a package deal as far as that is concerned. Okay, so let's go into this TM, man. All right, so let's go into this TM, and we're gonna get into transforming stimulus, right? So this is gonna come out of this 155, this TM. Okay, transforming stimulus, right? So this is gonna go into the pros and cons of independence and association, but it's not gonna. But we're gonna extract that out of this from the words overcommitment and hesitation, because this is what it's talking about: overcommitment and hesitation. But the context we're gonna be using it is independence and association. Overcommitment is going to be that association. Independence is going to be that um, hesitation, right? Hesitation to commit. All right, so let's do it. Okay, so um, now now we address transforming the energy, but more specifically stimulus. Out of the three things that are mentioned that vie for your attention, namely our goals, legitimate stimulus, and noise. Um, Transforming stimulus is more, others to self. However, the clarity, for clarity's sake, we address it here. Stimulus is something that cannot be ignored without consequences. So in True Master, that's our definition for stimulus. It's something that can't be ignored without some level of consequences. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Um, Transforming the stimulus is equivalent to turning a bad situation into a good situation and seeing the available opportunities to do so. Transforming the energy, so called, is in this context would be contingent upon the nature of the violation. If the stimulus has overcommitted, right, then it creates a particular type of opening that has its vulnerability in your potential preparation. It's talking about timing when you talk about preparation and all that stuff like that. Potential preparation and the unknown details of the situation. Okay, so in overcommitment, so joining a group, association. So this is what we're talking about. This is the portion of it about overcommitment. In overcommitment, many of the details of a situation are sacrificed. Many of the details of a situation are sacrificed in an attempt to speed up time and go to particular details or target. When we transform this stimulus, we take advantage of its inherent weakness, not knowing all the details. So basically, this would translate as far as association, as far as joining a group. You get whatever comes with joining that group. And a lot of times when you join that group, you may not particularly be acquainted with the extensive history of the group, what all it entails as far as you see what I'm saying, joining that particular group and everything like that. But you're getting whatever comes with it. You see what I'm saying? You're one with the body, so you're instantly associated with whatever comes with that group, for better or for worse, or whatever case may be. Okay, so that is the association part of it. Okay, let's see here. This can be exploited because um, the individual that's a part of the group can be exploited because he takes on whatever weakness that the group has, as whatever negative associations or whatever weaknesses or whatever holes in the energy, like we talked about in the previous video, that the particular group has. Okay, so this can be exploited in the preparation phase. A person who is greedy to impose their will can fall victim to underestimating their opponent or the incoming energy. Okay, so okay, that's the association part. So in the sense of hesitation, so hesitation is what we're talking about here. Being hesitant to join a group. I want to be independent. I want to be. I'm an independent. This that third. I don't need no da 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 da. So we're finna get into that. What is the cons of that? We went to the pros of that. That you don't have no loyalty to nobody. You can bounce from this to that, or whatever case may be, and potentially manipulate this against that. But what is the cons of that? Okay, so in so in the sense of hesitation, another person's hesitation is defeated by your ownership of your chosen position. I think we talked about that in another video. You got the ownership of the position. Now we're going to get into an example of that. Okay, hesitation is an interruption in progress, even for a short while, and paying attention to the tempo, right, of a given situation. You can feel the hesitation. In some situations, you can speed up time further to kind of press this. When there's hesitation and you impose your will and press the individual who's hesitating, or whatever case may be, you put pressure on the individual who's hesitating. In this aspect of transforming stimulus, this particular opening is best responded to by shortening time even further. I'm trying to shorten time as much as I can. Hey, bro, we got to do this now, right now. This is what it is. We get down and lay down type thing. Okay, a person who hesitates is trying to slow down time for additional detail, to increase time or to impose your tempo, to increase time or to impose your tempo. This is what I say it is. On the situation amplifies their inherent vulnerability. Okay, so let's give an example of that, because I don't know if people really understood what I meant when I said that. Let's give an example of that. Okay, so an example of this, okay, an example of this would be gangs in prison. Okay, this would be street gangs in prison. Okay, and this ain't nothing street or nothing, because everybody got cousins and family members, people they know this in gangs. So this ain't nothing out of the reach of the norm, or whatever case may be. Okay, so example of this is gangs in prison. A gang, a street gang, may operate under a certain identity in the streets. You see what I'm saying? Let's say they are a splinter of a larger gang. You see what I'm saying? They may be a splinter set or something like that of a larger gang, or whatever the case may be. Let's say they even have beef on the streets with certain members of their own gang, or whatever case may be, certain other factions, or whatever case may be. The normal thing is, when that gang member goes to prison, right? The street politics are on hold. You see what I'm saying? And they merge in with a larger established group or car. You see what I'm saying? According to the rules in prison for the sake of survival. So this is just one example of when I say take ownership of a position, right? When they go to prison, the ownership of what's going on in the politics and what this is, it's already crystallized around you, and you have very little opportunity to change it. You either get down or lay down. The pressure is so great, you cannot be independent. You see what I'm saying? So independence is a luxury that's afforded to you by a lack of pressure. If you have a certain level of pressure of conformity, it's very difficult to be independent. So that puts that pressure on that individual, or whatever the case may be. Then you dealing with something called self. Then you dealing with the other teaching, like how we talking about selfishness or purpose, how bad you want it. You see what I'm saying? Okay, from a true master perspective, independence and association have their pros and cons, and are ultimately situational and circumstantial. So it's all based. So like how we talked about in previous videos, all of this stuff that we've been talking about, with the 48 laws of power, Robert Greene has his perspective on things, or whatever. True Master, I kind of have a similar but different perspective, or whatever case may be. But I would say it like this: all the stuff that we mentioned, or whatever case may be, don't do this and do this, or whatever case may be, all of that stuff is circumstantial and situational. Um, that every energy is has its appropriate time and situation, or whatever case may be, and some have their situation where they're diametrically opposed to what you need to do. That is the wrong thing to do. You see what I'm saying? So you have to have the wisdom and discretion to choose, like tools in the toolbox, or whatever case may be. So that would be the 20th law of power, man. So we're gonna keep going with these 48 laws of power. Try to um, go ahead and press through. But I guess that was your daily dose for the day. I appreciate y'all for chiming in. Peace of the true and living. Appreciate y'all for checking me out, bearing with me on this Saturday. Peace and blessing, man. Peace of the God.